Rebecca Hogue murder trial. So we talked about this story a couple times over the last few weeks. This is a case where a mother was charged in the murder of her child that she did not commit. And it is under a law known as failure to protect. One of the more famous cases in Oklahoma is the Tondalea Hall case. She just got out after more than 15 years of incarceration. But basically, this is a partner or friend or someone that the almost always the mother knows that commits a heinous act, and then the state will go and prosecute the mother for that crime. This one, though, many advocates have been fighting against these laws for years now, and so, this isn't, new on anyone's radar that these laws are unjust and probably should be off the books and don't make us safer and have a lot of problems. But this case, the specifics of it are ridiculously horrifying. Basically, this woman was at work on New Year's Eve at her job, that is busy on New Year's Eve, and she left her son, a 2-year-old, in the care of her partner, and he killed them, or killed the child, and then proceeded to kill himself 3 days later. And anyway, the Norman Transcript's done some great coverage on this, but I don't know, Ron. I don't know how much we want to go into the specifics of it, but the legal analysis.
Oh no, I want to go into the specifics of it, then I'm gonna give you some legal analysis. I got a lot on this. Okay. First,
I'll let you go then.
Let me say this. For those of you who don't know anything about me, congratulations. Consider yourself lucky. I ain't shit. But I spent 2.5 years working at Still She Rises, a nonprofit in Tulsa representing mothers. Oklahoma incarcerates more women than any place per capita, than any place on the face of the earth, has done this since the mid-90s. Cases like this are the reason why. So I have this is a, I don't know what you say, a craw in my feather or whatever the fuck they say, stick in my craw, whatever. So here are the facts. This woman dated a man. She was at work on New Year's Eve, far away from what happened. This man unfortunately killed her infant son. She was not there to stop him. She had no idea it was going on. Whenever she found out her son was dead, she did not try to cover it up. She did not try to help the individual. She called 911 and said, "My child is dead." She did what any mother would do in a situation. And what cannot escape is she went under something unfathomable that you cannot fathom, that I cannot fathom, that no one listening can fathom unless you go through it. I remember my father passed. He passed after his brother. And I remember my mom said about my grandmom, who's still alive, no mother should have to bury her child. That's full stop. We aren't wired for that. And I shouldn't say we because I don't have a uterus. Human beings are not wired to bury the human beings they create, much less people with uteruses, the human beings that they go through the pains that Oklahoma wants to make them go through of childbearing, and an infant child at that. So this is unfathomable grief, right? So she's going through that. The individual who they wanted to arrest, let's talk about, at the beginning, this was not some case in which they were out to get Rebecca Hogue. The individual that they wanted to get, the individual that committed the act, was on the run, hung himself, wrote Rebecca is innocent on a trip, right? And I'm going to get to that. That's going to be part of the legal analysis. But as we see with Julius Jones, as we see with this case, our criminal legal system is not about justice, whatever the fuck that looks like. It's not about humanity, and it damn sure ain't about kindness or compassion. I'm sorry. It's not about compassion. It's not about kindness. It's damn sure not even about justice, right? So they go out and charge this woman on a quote-unquote failure to protect. Meaning, and by the way, it's first-degree murder. So for those of you who don't know, like second-degree manslaughter, if you've been following, unfortunately, situations like Henry Ruggs, like DUI with death, another way of looking at that would kind of be like second-degree manslaughter. Like he was speeding, first-degree manslaughter. He was speeding. He didn't go out to kill nobody, but he was speeding. He was acting reckless. That would be like manslaughter, right? Second-degree murder, meaning maybe you meant to do it, but you didn't have the malice aforethought. Like you shot at his leg, he slipped, you hit his head. That's like you didn't mean to kill him in second-degree murder. First-degree murder is I got it in my mind, I'm gonna kill you. Right? That's the most serious crime in American jurisprudence. First-degree murder, it requires some sort of like malice aforethought. I got it in my mind, I'm gonna kill you. This woman didn't even know this was happening. So it's the most serious crime in protect. She was charged, convicted by a jury of her peers of first-degree murder because they said, quote, she should have known it was going on and she did nothing to stop it. In a casino, miles the fuck away while this was occurring, right? And so now let's get into the legal analysis. First and foremost, there's something called DAs have so much power in these situations. These cases are not brought unless DAs bring them. And it's funny because I'm in private practice now in Oklahoma City, but we get a lot of cases in rural areas, right? Not a lot. We get some cases in rural areas. We take some more serious cases like these in rural areas. I wasn't in private practice when this happened, so I couldn't take in this case. But what I notice about rural DAs is cases that have any notoriety, they jump on them. Mm-hmm. And they prosecute them as harshly as they possibly can. And I've noticed that and just in a few months of practice in the serious cases that we have out of rural counties. And I say, man, I wonder what that's about. You know what I mean? Why do you want to? Because a lot of them, the cases are weak. If you have a good lawyer, if you're going against me, we can take. I want you to take this to trial if you want to, because this is how I'm gonna make my name, right? Right. So it's sad for the client because I don't want them to be going through this, but. So often these cases of great notoriety that come through these rural counties once every 2, 3, 4 years, they go so hard at them. They charge them as cruelly and as seriously as they possibly can. And what I think is happening is that I did some research on these DAs, and these are the cases that get them reelected in their minds. I encourage you all, these DAs that charge these like crazy, cruel cases and stuff like this, after they charge them, go and look at their next election cycle and see how much they talk about it. I prosecuted X, Y, and Z. And when liberal media and the nation and they were complaining about I enforced the laws because I feel like they think that's what's gonna get them elected. And that's a cruel thing to say. This woman's life, she's going to they recommended life with parole. She's going to be in a cage for decades, right? To think like that's what's going to get someone reelected. But I thought about it. If you think about a DA's job, and let's say they don't fucking do this, but let's say in essence, a DA's job is safety, right? Let's just put it right there. DA's job is safety. You make the community much safer, we're going to reelect. You don't make the community much safer, we're going to elect somebody else. If you look at a lot of these DAs, they run unelected. You look at a lot of these communities, they are quote unquote less safe because of quote unquote rises in quote unquote crime. And I say all of that because how we define crime and rises and everything else is problematic. But if you ask a lot of the voters, they have little to no knowledge of like the DA. They don't go down to the courthouse. A lot of them ain't being called for jury duty. A lot of them ain't being charged or anything like that. So they don't really have any knowledge of like what's going on. So it's like if you were just pose this question on whether or not you're going to elect or re-elect a DA, do you feel safer now than you felt 4 years ago? A lot of them would answer no. Right? And let's not forget that whole side of the aisle, especially in rural places, is fucking scare tactics. It's a caravan coming to get you. Right? So at once, it's like we're making you feel unsafe, even if you are objectively safer. So if that's the criteria, a lot of these DAs would never win re-election. So like, how can I, as a DA, as a politician, get my name in front of you? Well, you remember that I prosecuted this case that got all of this news, that I put this woman in a cage for decades, that I put this black man accused of this heinous crime in a cage for decades. Like, I did these things for decades. So you just like, okay, I know as a politician, he doing something. She doing something. Because I remember seeing, it's mostly men. I remember seeing him in the news saying that he convicted Rebecca Hogue. I remember seeing the news that he convicted this woman or that woman. So that is the political gamesmanship. And you got to ask yourself, what does that say about us as a society? They feel like their odds of being reelected, their odds of convincing us they're doing their job correctly, is that they are punishing people cruelly and harshly. And by the way, in our name, it's not Greg Masburn versus Rebecca Hogue in state Oklahoma. versus Rebecca
Right.
Hogue. That's in our name, and they are elected officials, and we should hold them accountable for that. So that's kind of my like political thing on it. Same for the judges, right? Judges, district judges are elected officials,
Right.
and that's going to lead me to legal analysis. Legal analysis. Judges decide law, juries decide facts. So often when I look at DAs in this state, I mean, not being funny, I haven't met one. I'm like, oh, you just a badass trial lawyer. Like you good at this. What they rely on is shock and awe. The baby was bleeding, and it's just your
Right.
baby, whatever. And the second thing that they rely on is judges that pretty much decide every issue in their favor, right? I don't know any former public defenders or former defense. I don't know a few former defense attorneys who are judges. The bulk of judges, I don't have the numbers on this. This is anecdotal. The bulk of judges that I experienced are former DAs, right? They're friends with the DAs. They was in that office. They work with them, right, every day. And a lot of the decisions made in this state, if you just go back and look, I'm getting to the legal analysis of Ms. Hogue. It's like a first year law student sees that this is just problematic and ridiculous. Like, how can a judge make this decision? Like, I'm on a listserv of every criminal offense attorney in Oklahoma, or at least most of them. And like some of the things are like, I can't believe you would make this decision. Like, I've heard like judges say like a brief detention in a Terry stop or apples and oranges. Terry stop is literally fucking described as a brief detention. It's like, no, that's literally apples to apples, bro. And so you have these judges who are as punitive in their sentencing, and follow the sentencing of punitive DAs, judicial bias is defined in a problematic way. Biased, or like they are in favor of the prosecution in a lot of their rulings. And so let's get into the legal analysis. Like, one thing, hearsay, right? A hearsay is defined as an out of court statement made by the declarant for the truth of the matter asserted. It's not more complex than that, needlessly, because everything the fucking law is. But like, they said that like Rebecca is innocent, that he carved on a tree. That's hearsay. That's correct. There are several exceptions to hearsay. One is a dying declaration. Now, I did not read the transcript. I did.
No. Yeah.
I did not read the transcript. I did not sit in on this trial. I am not here to critique. What I can tell you is that's a first year. So I can't tell you like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But like from what I read, that is a dying declaration, right? Like a dying declaration, like a dying declaration exception here say is like you're unavailable, probably because you did, right? And you said this thing with under the belief that you were about to die. The individual on trial didn't cause your death, right? So it's like a dying declaration. Now, I don't know if that argument was made.
I mean, I'll just read from what the Norman transcript wrote. Next to Trent's body, the words "Rebecca is innocent" were carved into a tree. Prior court documents show. Cleveland County District Judge Michael Tupper did not allow a picture of this carving to be shown to the jury, as the carving was hearsay on behalf of Trent. Like, he died in like the Wichita wilderness. Like, who else did it, guys?
Yeah, it is legally hearsay, right? But like the question is like dying declaration, and that's just off the top of my head. Like I didn't dig into this. On top of my head, bare minimum, like it's a dying declaration consideration to be made there, argument to be made there, and maybe a few more. Again, I didn't dig into this, but so often what you what you encounter at trials is just unreasonable judges like deciding everything in the DA's favor, and that's how they win a lot of these trials in terms of legal analysis. And I would note that both the DA and the judge are elected officials in the state. All of that being said, I think overall the problem here is that our criminal legal system is so fundamentally broken. It's broken beyond words. And I fancy myself a wordsmith as a trial attorney. But to go back to the unfathomable grief that this woman went through, and to know, as opposed to being there to help her child was murdered while she was not there. I can't say I know those feelings. I do not know Ms. Hogue, but I'm going to go on a limb and say Ms. Hogue feels an amount of guilt in addition to her grief that she wasn't there to stop that. that we absolutely can. Again, it's unfathomable. Standing at the ready, and here's something that's just factual. All right, you and I can control no other person. I can't control what Nick does. You can't control what your wife does. You can't control what your children does. You can't control what your friends do. You can't control what your parents do. None of that. I can't control what anyone does. You can hope that the people that you entrust your children with, you can bet them all you want, right? But you cannot control them. You can hope that they will do a decent job taking care of your child. That's all one can hope for. You can try to control for that as best you can. If they deviate in some way, and we have to acknowledge the socioeconomics here, right? Like her attorney, who I don't know, I'm not here to critique his job, but he's pro bono, right? And she worked at a casino as like a cocktail waitress. This is not a person with a lot of means. People who don't have a lot of means, who themselves don't even deviate. Like Miss Hogue didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. There stands a system at the ready to capitalize on your grief and to compound it with unfathomable terror. And it does that in your name, in my name, and most, if not all of our viewers' names, in the name of the state of Oklahoma. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. The old adage in sports is you are who your record says you are, right? I personally, and you personally, and most, if not all of our viewers personally, find this absolutely repulsive. But these are elected officials doing this in our name. We are collectively who our record says we are. Our record says that we incarcerate more women than any place on the face of the earth. We have been doing that for several decades. This is the reason why. And we have to do something to effectuate change of who we are.
Yeah, and this one's especially egregious because, I mean, they also suppressed a recorded conversation between the Norman Police Department detective and the district attorney's office. The police did not want to bring these charges. Like, they thought it was bullshit.
And,
like,
and those motherfuckers exist to build cases. Let me tell you something. As someone who practices every day, when the police, but occasionally I'll have a case, someone will hire me and we'll do investigation. And with the police say, yeah, man, I'm not. I told them, a lot of times I did some shit today. The police will tell the person to get a lawyer. Like, yeah, you better get a lawyer because I think this is bullshit. Right?
Wow, yeah.
And that don't happen a lot because the most of the time, police don't exist to exonerate you. Police exist to build cases. So that is their those are their marching orders. Build cases. When they say, I don't know, and again, I've been doing this my entire career. When they say, I think you should get a lawyer, I think we should be doing this, that should mean something. And the fact that it doesn't tells you a lot about that DA. And again, the only thing I can get to, and after this case, and my experience is like these, and this is detestable, despicable, and it's just really reflects horrible on us as a society that they feel like this is how I get reelected. It ain't like, can you imagine a world where you go in and say, the state of Oklahoma incarcerates more women than any place on the face of the earth per capita has for several decades. In our county, we have reduced the number of women incarcerated because we have provided them with services. Reelect me. In our county, we have the quote unquote high utilizers, as Oklahoma County Jail talks about them. Those high utilizers, I don't know who the fuck wants to utilize jail, but those people who struggle with housing, who struggle with a variety of issues like addiction, the issues that we would have them churning in our county jail, we have partnered with resource providers around this community to at once make you safer, at once make them safer, and reduce the population of this county jail. Reelect me. What if we lived in that world? That's a very fucking possible world, by the way.
Yeah.
But instead, we live in a world of, and if this guy runs for reelection, this is going to be. I a mother who was a grieving mother. I put in a cage for several decades. Reelect me.
At massive expense to taxpayers and total destruction of her life. Like,
it's absurd.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Greg Mashburn. He's Cleveland County, I think McLean County, maybe one other. So yeah, he'll be up in 2022. Every single DA is up in 2022. Thanks for watching our video. Please give it a like and hit that subscribe button for more content. If you want to engage with us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram.